Welcome back to the Bob Fu Report. Today I want to give an update about what's happening to the Mayflower Church. Over the course of August this year, the Mayflower Church transitioned from South Korea to Thailand. They had lived in South Korea for nearly 3 years, really exhausting all their legal options. And yet, sadly, the South Korean government kept denying their asylum claim. And they have no other way because basically they have no legal protection if they stay in South Korea, in that island of Jeju. And the Communist Party, we have credible evidence showing the Communist Party's security apparatus had been planning, most likely a major kidnapping operation to grab them away back to the Chinese prison. That will be a true disaster. And we have previously known that basically the Chinese government, under this so-called COVID-0 COVID lockdown policy, and the borders was also locked. Flying from China to Korea was also basically banned. But now Chinese government reopened, and both the situation inside China and the secret document we obtained from the Chinese security apparatus shows the Chinese Communist Party is very, very angry about the exodus of the Mayflower Church. And nearly every family members, the parents, their siblings, back to China of these 16 Mayflower Church members, families, had been detained, interrogated, arrested, kidnapped, and some were even forced to turn on their China's social media app, WeChat, in order to locate where the Mayflower Church members are being residing in Jeju Island. So the Mayflower Church had really no other good option if they want a legal international protection. So they prayed about it, and they voted, and they even made a modern-day Mayflower Covenant, a Mayflower Pact, basically committing to each other for their safety, for their brotherly love, and for watching over each other, for not leaving anyone behind. So this endeavor of fleeing, basically heading from South Korea to Thailand is a major adventure, nothing short of a miracle. The Lord opened the door, and with many brothers and sisters from America flow there, including my staff from China Aid, and help escort them from several air flights from Jeju to Bangkok, Thailand. So they went there in Bangkok and applied for United Nations International Refugee Protection status. So this must be the first time a persecuted Chinese house church as a group apply as collectively for international refugee protection because of the severe religious persecution under Xi Jinping's regime. So the Mayflower Church drew enormous attention by at least 3 major international news organizations, including the Wall Street Journal, the Associated Press, and Christianity Today. And China Aid and many American missionaries had been providing support, both personnel support and financial support for this effort. Here is a photo of those brothers and sisters who were praying before heading to the airport for the Bangkok. This church, of course, has been covered by prayers. Many of you had been remembering them and support them. So we ask you to continue to pray for them and keep supporting them and walking with the persecuted brothers and sisters like the Mayflower. So there's another photo of them also showing another group were about to departure from their airport to Bangkok from South Korea. And Pastor Pan of the Mayflower Church had a lot to say, of course, when he was interviewed by Christianity Today, when he was questioned, like whether to flee from China to South Korea and then now to Thailand is wise. Here's some of the quotes from Christianity Today. Pastor Pan said, "Nobody flees like this with kids and women from one country to another. And this isn't fleeing. This is leaving Egypt." So it is not simply just fleeing from China. To the Mayflower Church, they has a vision. This is a call, exodus from the persecuted Egypt. And they felt they are carrying a mission to build a community overseas as a community who can practicing their faith freely, and also to guarantee their children to have a biblical education according to their own conscience and choice of their faith. Because previously Christianity Today wrote an article included some criticism for the church's decision to leave China. Of course, the danger level in Thailand after they arrived has been vividly increased, even when they were interviewed by the reporters of Associated Press. The 2 Chinese operatives went to the location. It was a restaurant, and witnessing live by 2 AP reporters, these 2 Chinese operatives were seeing videotaping them. And so, as we all know, China had already a track record of basically cross-state international kidnapping in many countries, including in Thailand. But at minimum, Mayflower Church can apply to the international refugee protection through their UN headquarters at Bangkok. So, of course, there also the danger of their visa expiration because Thailand would only grant the Chinese passport holders a 15-day tourist visa upon arrival in the airport. So Pastor Pan himself in the interview said, after arriving in Thailand, I truly felt the danger. And even though in Korea, he said, I knew Thailand would be more dangerous. These past few days, I've seen that it's much more dangerous than I imagined. End the quote. So, brothers and sisters, let's keep praying for them. Has the danger really make Pastor Pan and the Mayflower Church feel it was a wrong decision for them to exodus from Egypt, from the communist China? No. Here's actually Pastor Pan said, on earth, Christians are sojourners. We are tourists. We are travelers. We can keep moving forward. But Thailand isn't my destination. Neither is the United States. We are walking toward our heavenly home. So this is a Christian perspective as refugees. I remember somebody, an evangelical Christian leader, said, even wrote a book, Jesus actually was our first asylee. He was a refugee. Remember, Joseph and Mary had to flee out of the Roman, the governor's order of killing all the Jewish boys. And so Jesus, along with his parents, they fled and to Egypt, ironically, and they spent time in exile until they return. So the church themselves are not kind of feel that was a wrong decision. They're not scared, and because they know who they are. They know who are with them. So there are some photos, videos showing the church, the Mayflower Church. They sing psalms together to comfort themselves. As they are waiting for the UN refugee status to be processed, how can we all together to continue to pray for them, to support them? Remember, we have a website. You can send your letter, email, encouragement from the scripture or from your family through that email called the Mayflower Church at gmail.com. Remember, the Mayflower Church at gmail.com. So this email will directly go to the church, to Pastor Pan. So they will read it and they will respond to you in most of the occasions. And also to show your solidarity and show your financial support as well. As we all know, this nearly 60 members. There's even one mom just gave birth to a baby girl in Bangkok after she arrived. So they have a lot of needs just for the daily necessities for this nearly 60 people. If you don't even include the medical bills, it's roughly about $3,000 per day. $3,000 per day. So it's a huge financial cost. So China Aid, of course, we and a few other partners like Freedom Seekers International, like other churches, together, we are working very hard to meet these needs and challenges. And please, if you are able, and pray for financial gift, this is the time they really need our support and need the security protection. If you want to go as a volunteer to protect them as American presence, and please also contact our office at info@chinaaid.org, or just call our office at 432-689-6985. Again, the email is info@chinaaid.org or 432-689-6985. We welcome you to make this as a special mission trip, or your Bible study group can send one representative there to hug them, to let the Mayflower Church know they're not forgotten, and they will not be forgotten until they are totally free. So we're praying that their freedom will come sooner than later. We're working, of course, around the clock with the U.S. Embassy, with the State Department, and with the United Nations, try to find a solution for them to get resettled as a Mayflower Church in the United States of America. Thank you for praying. May God continue to bless you and bless America, and continue to bless the Mayflower Church.
Thank you, Bob, for that report. During China's Mid-Autumn Festival, members of Trinity Harvest Gospel Church were attacked as they baptized believers. Passing bystanders threw stones, they were scolded at and threatened on the beach. Wu Lishan and Pastor Mao Zhibin baptized 4 Christians despite this persecution. Shenzhen Trinity Harvest Gospel Church originally planned to hold their baptisms on September 3rd. However, they were postponed due to zero-COVID quarantine measures. Church leadership decided to hold baptisms on September 10th, a week later, during the Mid-Autumn Festival. Authorities previously harassed Trinity Harvest at a different baptism last year. This time, the church decided to keep the event a secret entirely. They didn't post anything on social media, and everything was arranged solely by Pastor Mao Zhibin. The church arrived at the beach in the morning, and everyone was required to scan their COVID health codes before entering. Consequently, this alerted the government to their position. Shenzhen has locked down several times throughout this year, so everyone in the church was very familiar with the constant COVID tests. The church themselves was just excited to gather together despite the hardships of quarantine and strict regulations. However, some people approached Pastor Mao while they were on the beach and said, "I know you. Don't perform religious activities here." Pastor Mao knew the government was aware of the baptisms at this point, but he didn't pay much attention. After everyone in the congregation arrived, Pastor Mao gathered everyone for a group photo. Suddenly, more than 20 people showed up, random people. They were not in uniform, they didn't show any kind of identification, and these individuals tried to stop church members from taking group pictures. Afterwards, though, Pastor Mao and Wu Lishan walked into the water to baptize believers. More than 10 of these bystanders started to throw rocks at them. Reports indicate that they were instructed by a government supervisor at the beach. Countless stones fell around Mao and Wu, and many congregants tried to take videos, and fortunately nobody was injured. Some onlookers tried to block these video cameras with their hands. After the baptism, church members went to a restaurant to celebrate, although they were still monitored by the mysterious crowd. Pastor Mao posted on his Facebook page, quote, "Today is the Mid-Autumn Festival of 2022. Our Trinity Harvest Gospel Church baptized believers on the beach, but we were attacked by stones. Thanks to God's protection and grace, we were able to baptize 2 brothers and 2 sisters. I am deeply moved that the 4 believers were so brave. Although they were faced with threats and stones, they finished the baptism with faith. This reminded me of Jesus' words when he said, 'Whoever acknowledges me before others, I will also acknowledge before my Father in heaven.'" Powerful. One of the sisters of the church said after the baptism, quote, "This is such an unforgettable experience. I feel I'm different now. I no longer fear many of the things I used to fear." Trinity Harvest is a relatively young church. Well, it is young. It was established a little over 5 years ago that focuses on social justice. Pastor Mao and some of the church leadership joined 400 other ministers in signing Pastor Wang Yi's A Declaration for the Sake of the Christian Faith in 2019. The church has thus attracted a lot of dissidents and became a main target for persecution. 2 house churches have been dismantled, and one is an unnamed church in Hukou County in Jiangxi Province, and the other is Anshanghong Church in Liaoning Province. On May 30th, Jiangxi, the County Civil Affairs Bureau officially announced the closing of this unnamed church. The official announcement stated, after investigation, it was found that House Church in Hukou County carried out activities in the name of a social organization without registration and was identified as an illegal social organization. In accordance with the provisions of Articles 2 and 9 of the interim measures for banning illegal civil organizations, this agency dismantled it in accordance with the law on May 30th, 2022. Anshanghong Church in Liaoning Province was also shut down just a little bit earlier in April. The Civil Affairs Bureau in Liaoning released an official announcement. It says, after investigation, it was found that Anshanghong Church was not registered and carried out activities in the name of social organizations without authorization. According to the regulations, this administrative agency has decided to shut down Anshanghong Church in accordance with the law. Now, unfortunately, we have no other information about these 2 churches. Thus far, these are the only 2 notices announcing their dismantlement, and they were issued by the Civil Affairs Bureau. The churches also did not publicly issue any kind of intercession letters, prayer requests, anything like that, revealing further details. Our next story was on September 7th. The Civil Affairs Bureau in Xinjiang, Jingling Province, Northeast China, banned Sunshine Reformed Church, a house church not registered with the government. According to the official announcement, the church was banned on the grounds that it was, quote, unregistered and therefore illegal. A few weeks earlier, on August 21st, as some of you know, the Sunshine Reformed Church was suddenly stormed by police during a church service. A mass of police officers stormed in to their venue and dispersed the Christians who were meeting and took 9 people. This included Pastor Guo Meiyun, elders Ku Hongling and Zhang Liangling, and Pastor Guo's wife. There were some other individuals totaling 9. They were taken into custody at Wingxinglu police station. Police violently cracked down on Sunshine Reformed, causing some female members to fall unconscious and faint. Now, the church itself, Sunshine Reformed, adheres to the Reformed faith, which is universally recognized as an Orthodox belief, and it refuses to join the state-controlled Three Self-Patriotic movement. Pastor Guo also participated in the signing of Pastor Wang Yi's Declaration for the Sake of the Christian Faith. Guo has been repeatedly summoned by Chinese Communist Party security personnel. Banning Sunshine Reform further illustrates Xi Jinping's nationwide crackdown on house churches that refuse to register with the government, and also illustrates its suppression of faith groups. For a considerable period of time, local authorities generally integrate multiple departments in door-to-door harassment and bans, but recent cases also indicate an increase in bans by the Civil Affairs Bureau. Remember those 2 churches from before? That was also the Civil Affairs Bureau. In our next story, the city of Zhuzhou in Jiangsu Province issued a notice tightening comprehensive religious control to limit religious freedom in China in the form of 10 strict prohibitions and restrictions. Under Xi Jinping's dictatorship, China has seen a proliferation of regulations and related bans on religious freedom. The notice is titled Strictly Implementing the 10 Strict Prohibitions and 10 Restrictions to Comprehensively Strengthen Religious Management. It was jointly issued by 5 major religious groups, including those of the Christian faith in Zhuzhou. Officials reported that this is to, quote, comprehensively govern religion strictly and promote the healthy inheritance of religion. Suzhou City in Jiangsu held a study session in the morning of July 31st. According to the report, each religious venue required religious clergy, site staff, and volunteer workers to strictly implement the 10 strict prohibitions and 10 restrictions and abide by relevant regulations. Those who were inadequate in the execution and damaged the image of religion will be dealt with seriously in accordance with the law. The members of the management committee of each religious activity site unanimously decided that religious people are citizens first and foremost. As citizens of faith, they must abide by the laws and regulations of the country and put, quote, love your country, love your religion as the utmost priority. The notice of 10 strict prohibitions and the 10 restrictions covers a wide range of issues, imposing new specific restrictions on religious activities and further compressing the narrow space for religious groups to operate. These include restrictions on the dissemination of religious information on the internet, denial of access to religion to minor citizens, like those under 18, prohibition of religious reading materials published within any religious group, and prohibition of religious rituals and ceremonies by religious groups themselves. Religious groups and activities of an unofficial nature are included in the ban, and independent study tours, conferences, trainings for religious members outside the country are not permitted either. You can actually find a list of the full 10 restrictions and 10 prohibitions on our website, ChinaAid.org. Finally, our last story, the Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights released a report on Xinjiang just minutes before Michelle Bachelet's term ended. And I've got to say, the two views on this thing are very different. One group is very excited that Michelle Bachelet even released anything because, she last year said that there wasn't going to be a report, or that there was going to be a report last year, and now we're finally getting it. That was last August. And now, in the next August, we're finally getting it. The report is 40 pages long, and immediately after it was published, the Chinese government published a 93-page long response. Most of this does not really go into great detail. There's not any evidence really shown. It's just kind of reviewed from the Uyghur Tribunal and other independent studies that have been done. It says nothing about the Xinjiang police files, where tons of government documentation was leaked, which we have access to now. But what she does do, and what the office does do that's good, is that they do call them crimes against humanity. That what's happening in Xinjiang is considered a crime against humanity. But they never say anything about genocide. So some Uyghur groups are excited about this new development. But in the report, there's no recommendation for what the UN should do. There's not hey, let's stop buying Xinjiang goods. There's not any sort of action that they can take. It's just that, they may be guilty of crimes against humanity. As the United Nations, there should be more steps after that, right? There should be a recommendation for who to pass this on to, for what to do. There's not. So as mad as China might be that Michelle Bachelet didn't, just regurgitate all of their propaganda, there's really nothing that's happened so far. So we're hoping to see more developments with the new High Commissioner of Human Rights for the UN, and we'll see what happens as we go from there. Thank you so much for joining us today on the Bob Fu Report. I hope you have a blessed day, and God be with you.